Hare Krishna. Today we'll be discussing translation and explanation of chapter 9 of Srimad Bhagavad-Gita of text 12. Those who are thus bewildered are attracted by demonic and atheistic views. In their deluded condition, their hopes for the liberation, their fruitive activities, and their culture of knowledge are well defeated. There are many devotees who assume themselves to be in Krishna consciousness and devotional service, but at the heart do not accept the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Krishna, as absolute truth. For them, the fruit of devotional service going back to Godhead will never be tasted. Similarly, those who are engaged in fruitive pious activities and who are ultimately hoping to be liberated from the material entanglement will never be successful either, because they deride the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Krishna. In other words, persons who mock Krishna are to be understood to be a demonic or atheistic. As described in the 7th chapter of Bhagavad-Gita, such demonic miscreants never surrender to Krishna. Therefore, their mental speculation to arrive at the absolute truth bring them to the false conclusion that the ordinary living entity and Krishna are one and the same. With such a false conviction, they think that the body of the human being is now simply covered by material nature, and that as soon as one is liberated from the material body, there is no difference between a God and himself. This attempt to become one with Krishna will be baffled because of a delusion. Such atheists and demonic cultivation of spiritual knowledge is always futile. That is the indication of this verse. For such persons, cultivation of the knowledge in the Vedic literature is the Vedanta Sutra and the Upanishads is always baffled. It is a great offense, therefore, to consider Krishna, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, to be an ordinary man. Those who do so are certainly deluded because they cannot understand the eternal form of Krishna. In Brihad Vaishnava Mantra, it is clearly stated that one who considers the body of Krishna to be material should be driven out of the form of all rituals and activities of Shruti. And if one by chance sees his face, he should at once take bath in the Ganges to rid himself of an infection. People jeer at Krishna because they are envious of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Their destiny is clearly to take birth after birth in the species of atheists and demonic life. Perpetually, the real knowledge will remain under delusion, and gradually they will regress to the darkest regions of the creation. Text 13. Translation. O son of Partha, those who are not deluded, the great souls, are under the protection of the divine nature. They are fully engaged in devotional service because they know me as the Supreme Personality of Godhead, original and inexhaustible. In this verse, the description of Mahatma is clearly given. The first sign of Mahatma is that he is already situated in the divine nature. He is not under the control of material nature, and how is this affected? That is explained in 7th chapter. One who surrenders into the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Sri Krishna, at once becomes freed from the control of material nature. That is the qualification. One can become free from the control of material nature as soon as he surrenders his soul to the Supreme Personality of Godhead. That is a preliminary formula. Being marginal potency, as soon as the living entity is freed from the control of material nature, he is put under the guidance of the spiritual nature. The guidance of the spiritual nature is called Daivam Prakritim, divine nature. So when one is promoted in that way, by surrendering to the Supreme Personality of Godhead, one attains to the stage of a great soul, Mahatma. The Mahatma does not divert his attention to anything outside Krishna because he knows perfectly well that Krishna is the original Supreme Person and cause of all causes. There is no doubt about it. Such a Mahatma or a great soul develops through association with other Mahatmas, pure devotees. Pure devotees are not even attracted by Krishna or other features, such as four-armed Mahavishnu. They are simply attracted by the two-armed form of Krishna, since they are not attracted to other features of Krishna, or to speak of the demigods. They are not concerned with any form of the demigod or of the human being. They only meditate upon Krishna and Krishna Consciousness. They are always engaged in unswerving service of the Lord in Krishna Consciousness. Text 14. Translation. Always chanting my glories, enduring with a great determination, bowing down before me, these great souls perpetually worship me with devotion. The Mahatma cannot be manufactured by rubber stamping an ordinary man. His symptoms are described here. A Mahatma is always engaged in chanting the glories of the Supreme Lord Krishna, the personality of Godhead. He has no other business. He is always engaged in the glorification of the Lord. In other words, he is not an impersonalist. When the question of the glorification is there, one has to glorify the Supreme Lord, praising His holy name, His eternal form, His transcendental qualities, and His uncommon pastime. One has to glorify all these things. Therefore, a Mahatma is attached to the Supreme Personality of Godhead. One who is attached to the impersonal feature of the Supreme Lord, the Brahma Jyoti, is not described as Mahatma. In the Bhagavad-Gita, he is described in a different way in the next verse. The Mahatma is always engaged in a different activities of a devotional service, as described in the Srimad Bhagavatam, hearing and chanting about Vishnu, not a demigod or a human being. That is a devotion. Shravanam Kirtanam Vishnu Smaranam, and remembering him. Such Mahatma has firm determination to achieve at the ultimate end of the association of the Supreme Lord in any one of the 5 transcendental rasas. To achieve that success, he engages all activities, mental, bodily and vocal, everything in the service of the Supreme Lord Sri Krishna. That is called full Krishna consciousness. In devotional service, there are certain activities which are called determined, such as fasting on certain days, like the 11th day of the moon, Ekadashi, and on the appearance day of the Lord, etc. All these rules and regulations are offered by the great acharyas for those who are actually interested in getting admission into the association of the Supreme Personality of Godhead in a transcendental world. The Mahatma's great soul strictly observes all these rules and regulations, and therefore they are sure to achieve these desired results. As described in the second verse of this chapter, this devotional service is not only easy, but it can be performed in a happy mood. One does not need to undergo any severe penance and austerity. He can live this life in devotional service, guided by the expert spiritual master, and in any position, either as a householder or a sannyasi or a brahmachari, in any position and anywhere in the world. He can perform this devotional service to the Supreme Personality of Godhead and thus become actually Mahatma, a great soul. Text 15 translation. Others who are engaged in the cultivation of the knowledge worship the Supreme Lord as the one without a second, diverse in many and in the universal form. This verse is the summary of the previous verse. The Lord tells Arjuna that those who are purely in Krishna consciousness and do not know anything other than Krishna are called Mahatma. Yet there are other persons who are not exactly in the position of Mahatma, but who worship Krishna also in different ways. Some of them are already described as the distressed, the financial destitute, and the inquisitive, and those who are engaged in the cultivation of the knowledge. But there are others who are still lower, and these are divided into 3. He who worships himself as one with the Supreme Lord, he who concocts some form of the Supreme Lord and worships that, he who accepts the universal form, the Vishwarupa of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, and worships that. Out of the above 3, the lowest, those who worship themselves as a Supreme Lord, thinking themselves to be monists, are most predominant. Such people think themselves to be Supreme Lord, and in this mentality they worship themselves. This is also a type of God worship, for they can understand that they are not the material body but are actually spiritual soul. At last, such a sense is prominent. Generally, the impersonalists worship the Supreme Lord in this way. The second class includes the worshippers of the demigods, those who by imagination consider any form to be the form of the Supreme Lord. And the third class includes those who cannot conceive of anything beyond the manifestation of the material universe. They consider the universe to be the supreme organism or entity, and the worships that the universe is also a form of the Lord. Text 16 translation. But it is I who am the ritual, I the sacrifice and offerings of the ancestors, the healing of the herb, the transcendental chant. I am the butter and the fire and the offering. The sacrifice known as Jyotistoma is also Krishna, and he is also a Mahayajna. The oblations offered to the Pitraloka or the sacrifice performed to please the Pitraloka, considered as a kind of a drug in the form of a clarified butter, is also Krishna. The mantras chanted in the connection also Krishna, and many other commodities made with milk products for offer in the sacrifice are also Krishna. The fire is also Krishna because fire is one of the 5 material elements and is therefore claimed as a separated energy of Krishna. In other words, the Vedic sacrifices recommended the Karmakanda division of the Vedas, or is total also Krishna. Or in other words, those who are engaged in rendering devotional service into Krishna are to be understood to have performed all the sacrifices recommended in these Vedas. Text 17 translation. I am the father of this universe, the mother, the support, and the grandsire. I am the object of the knowledge, the purifier, and the syllable Om. I am also the Rig, the Sama, and Yajur Vedas. The entire cosmic manifestation, moving and non-moving, are manifested by different activities of Krishna energy. In the material existence, we create different relationships with different living entities who are nothing but Krishna's material energy. But under the creation of Prakriti, some of them appear as for father, mother, grandfather, creator, etc. But actually they are parts and parcel of Krishna. As such, these living entities who appear to be our father, mother, etc. are nothing but Krishna. In this verse, the word Data means creator. Not only are our father and mother part and parcel of Krishna, but their creator, grandmother and grandfather, etc. are also Krishna. Actually, any living entity being part and parcel of Krishna is Krishna. All the Vedas therefore aim only toward Krishna. Whatever we want to know through the Vedas is but a progressive step to understanding Krishna. The subject matter which helps us purify our constitutional position is especially Krishna. Similarly, the living entity who is inquisitive to understand all Vedic principles is also part and parcel of Krishna, and as such is also Krishna. In all the Vedic mantras, the word Om, called Pranava, is transcendental sound vibration and is also Krishna. And because in all the hymns of the 4 Vedas, Samaveda, Yajurveda, and Rigveda, and Adharvana, and Pranava or Omkara is very prominent, it is understood to be Lord Sri Krishna. Hare Krishna. That ends the text 17 explanation of chapter 9 of Srimad Bhagavad-Gita. Hare Krishna. Keep listening. Thank you so much.